Alright, everybody, what's going on? It's Thundershot, and I am joined today by two very special guests, Virgo Durai
What's up?
and Dr. Love.
What's up?
Alright, and today we're actually going to be talking about more Xenoverse 2. I invited these guys on because they have very different opinions on the things we're going to talk about today, and I know Dr. Love's got some very strong opinions on what we're going to talk about first, but to just kind of go ahead and give you an overview, today I kind of want to be talking about stats as a whole and how they should work in Xenoverse. Once again, as always with this series, if you guys have any feedback at all, any feedback of your own, that you want to go ahead and let us know, put it in the comment section down below, and maybe we can work that into something in the future. Just let me know how you feel about the whole thing. You think I have good ideas, bad ideas, I like what this person said, I didn't like what this person said, or I have my own idea on this. But stats is what we're talking about today, kind of as a whole. I've already kind of made a video on clothing and whether or not should it affect your character's stats, but today we're focusing on how strong your character should be allowed to get, what combinations, things like that. So I actually want to start with Z-Souls, because I know just the other day Dr. Love made a video on Z-Souls that he was pretty strongly opinionated with. So, Dr. Love, if you want to kick us off, how do you feel about Z-Souls, and should they be in the next Xenoverse game?
Alright, yeah, so Z-Souls are I hate Z-Souls so much. I can't stand Z-Souls because I get the whole purpose of them and that they were supposed to, like, you know, help out with the players and everything, give them some advantages to certain things or whatever. But I do feel that it got to a point where Z-Souls were just ridiculously, like, OP. Like, for example, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Goku's Z-Soul, where it's Whis, you're stepping on Poo or whatever it's called, where he literally eliminates, like, almost all of your stamina before, like, right when the match starts. I think stuff like that is really OP and just, like, ridiculous. Like Super Saiyan God Goku's, where it's just, like, he gets to have infinite stamina for, like, such and such time while the Z-Soul is activated. Like, things like that make me really mad, or, like, when people, like, can't flinch or whatever, because that, like, takes away the purpose of being able to break people's guards, like, when you take them out of an ultimate attack or whatever. Stuff like that just made me really hate Z-Souls. I don't like the advantages. I don't like the things that they do. I just don't like overall how they turn out in battle. Like, I just think that battle should be, like, based on the player's skill more than, you know, I have such and such equipped on me, so that gives me an advantage. Like, I don't really like that type of stuff. Whenever I'm playing a different game, I don't usually equip stuff to me, like, ever. I used to back in the day, but then as I got older, I stopped doing it because, for me personally, I just don't like equipping things in order to buff me up during fights. Like, I don't know, I just really don't like the whole concept of Z-Souls as a whole. I used to, but the further on I played the game, the more I started to dislike it, and I just really hope they don't bring it into Xenoverse 2.
What do you think, Virgo?
What I think, actually, I don't think that, you know, the extreme, you know, we should go the extreme route and take Z-Souls out. I think what needs to actually happen is each Z-Soul needs to be looked at and tweaked, so to speak. So, you know, you have Goku's, he starts you off with less stamina. Well, first off, I think there shouldn't be any Z-Soul that affects stamina. I don't believe any move in the game should affect stamina, because stamina is how you defend yourself, and it's already hard enough to manage it. But let's say, you know, with your example where, you know, there's no flinching. I would say give somebody no flinching for X amount of time once Y conditions have been met. So let's say I get your health down to 25%. Now your Z-Soul pops, and you know you're not going to flinch for all of 7 seconds, maybe something like that, or even once you've taken X amount of hits in a combo, you stop flinching for 2 seconds. And I think that would be a better way to do things, just swapping and tweaking as opposed to just removing it totally, because I believe that a lot of the Z-Souls in this game do give a lot of characters personality and add to strategy that you can do. For example, everyone knows my favorite Z-Soul is Might as Well, because it gives you an improved stamina recovery, although I think that should be the standard on what stamina recovers anyway. But let's say you have a Z-Soul that gives you back a little bit more ki every time you get hit, or a Z-Soul that gives a diminishing return every time you are hit in the middle of a combo, or something like that.
Okay, so just to kind of clear it up here, just small recap for you guys. Dr. Love, take Z-Souls out of the game. They're too easy to break. They're too easy to put on the wrong created characters, specifically, especially now at the level 99 cap running wild. Virgo says they just need to be well balanced. And the thing about that is Bandai Namco actually, you can't really tell it because of hit detection anymore, but Bandai Namco, aside from the level 99 cap in my opinion, which I can talk about later, did a really good job of going back in and balancing moves. They've done a decent, like, it doesn't seem like it because you can't really tell what's going on anymore because the lag and hit detection is off the charts, but they have gone in and they have fixed so many moves and so many Z-Souls that were broken or that had something wrong with them. Now, it might be their fault for having difficult or broken or wrong Z-Souls in the first place, but we've seen that they can balance it, right? And I'm kind of in the middle of you guys. I had an idea about it would pretty much involve removing Z-Souls, at least from custom characters. That's my main gripe. There's almost no, except maybe Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Goku, there's almost no character that I run into out of the original cast or whatever that has a Z-Soul where I'm like, oh, I can't play with this guy, because that particular Z-Soul isn't broken on him because he's not a custom character designed to work with the Z-Soul for the most part.
You ain't ran into Gohan yet.
I ain't ran into What's Gohan's?
Gohan, where he perfect blocks the entire time until you take his health away.
Yeah, that
little bit of drifting, and you're pretty much invincible for the whole game, and you're perfect blocking. Your opponent's stamina's going to crap.
A couple of them here and there, but I had an idea to replace a Z-Soul. I mean, you could still call it a Z-Soul if you wanted to, with a badge, and I brought this up in my clothing video, but essentially take the effect out of Z-Souls, and the reason, like, I'll talk about my reasoning for this in a second, but take the effect out of Z-Souls so there's no effect. Still let them affect your stats, whether that be upping your key supers and lowering your basic attacks, or upping your whatever, you're upping your health and lowering your strike supers, whatever, but still allow Z-Souls that alter, or badges as I would call them, that alter your stats overall, but take the effect out of it. And I don't like the idea of taking away customization options, just options that give us more freedom, but with Z-Souls, as we saw in Xenoverse, even with how Bandai Namco was doing with them, it's just a really hard thing to balance when you have that many in the game. If you still want to have each Z-Soul be unique and give people a bonus and make it useful to people, just with level 99 caps in certain races, skills and stat sets and stuff like that, just Z-Souls can just become out of hand. So I am kind of siding with Dr. Love here that at least the effect could be removed, and it would not bother me to see it go. However,
well, with that being said, as you know, the created characters have higher stats anyway, so giving them stats anyway would be, it would pretty much defeat the purpose anyway. You would just, by what you're saying, it would just simply be smarter to take them out. That's why I think the tweaking idea is a lot better.
What do you mean exactly? Created characters have higher stats?
If you actually go through your main roster, once you hit about level, I want to say 45, 50, if you compare your created character stats to the roster, the main roster, their stats will almost always be higher. They'll almost always be stronger. And potentially you have the option to, get 300, give 300 points, get 3 stats up to 100. You have the option to raise your created character's stats way beyond anything you could make for any other created character. I don't know how they've divvied out the skill points amongst the created characters, but it's clear that they have less, and they have been meant to be made weaker than the created characters. I don't know if that's because Namco wanted you to feel like my power. I'm more stronger than Goku. Yes, my power. But the result, the result is still the same. Created characters end up being stronger. First and foremost, because of the stats. The clothing and the Z-Souls are a completely different thing. The stats is the main thing as to why created characters are stronger. Take Scala, for example, who's not even 100 in her physical strikes, and put her up against Broly, and she's going to do more damage on a 10-hit combo. Every time.
That's nuts. I did not know that. I didn't know that it was that. I didn't know that was imbalanced. But that does bring me to the next thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about stat caps as a whole, because right now, Virgo's been telling me this before. Right now, if you have a female Earthling and you make her you give her 100 points in key supers, and then you put clothes on that ups her key supers, and then you give her a Z-Soul that ups her key supers, and then you give her, well, I mean, she would have to be a Saiyan at that point, but you give her Super Vegeta 2 or something like that ups her key super. She can actually you can get certain characters that get, not, even though you're limited to 100 points as far as your stat goes with the addition of clothes and Z-Souls, etc., etc., you can actually get your stats up to 175 plus points in key supers, and that's when you start getting moves like Special Beam Cannon that take away 75% of people's health on one hit, on one lucky hit. So I want to know what you guys' opinions were on potentially capping them, and how to go about that. Dr. Love, you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, so I think that they should just make it so that you can, limit the amount of points you can put into each stat. Because when you can get it to 100 for a couple of stats, and when, they added level 99, where you could add 100 points into 3 different stats, and then if you wear a certain type of clothing, it could raise it even past 100, that's a little ridiculous. I don't know if Z-Souls affected it too, they might have, but I'm not sure exactly. But I do think that they should probably just make it so that each stat goes to a certain amount that you can add into it, so that it doesn't get ridiculously OP with the plus 100 and stuff like that, because already the points shouldn't go into clothes anyway, but it's if they were gonna since it does affect the stats, I don't think that they should make it so you can go past 100 for more than one at least, because that's just ridiculous. I think that it'd be a little more evened out if they could make it somehow that you have to distribute it evenly some way, shape, or form, but you can give yourself an advantage in a couple of stats like it was before the level 99 or whatever.
Virgo, do you want to give the lowdown on the WWE setup?
Oh, so yeah, in WWE, when you make a character, you got, let's say I make a character that looks like Rey Mysterio.
Rey Mysterio's short.
Yeah, he's a short guy. He's about 5'8". He's going to be fast as all get up. The game will let me put his speed stat to 100. However, it'll only let me put his strength stat to 75. And in certain iterations of the game in WWE games, if his strength is 75, he is not going to be able to lift somebody who is classified as heavyweight, which means certain moves and certain high-powered moves will become unavailable to him. So that is like a hard cap in the finest way. Now, I'm not saying that they should make it so your stats should determine which moves you can use, but I believe that there should be soft and hard caps. Now, I also believe health needs to become a universal stat. Previously, there were things where you could set it, I have 1 bar of health, 2 bars of health, 3 bars of health. I think that universal stat needs to come back, and maybe in its place something like defense or something of that matter. Simply put, because you take the Mel Saiyan who has virtually no health, he gets hit by anything. He's a glass cannon with the hands, and that's it. He's a glass cannon on basic attack, and that's it. Like, the Mel Saiyan is kind of useless, which then leads me into the race situation. But that's another story for another time.
Now, the WWE stat cap is interesting because in the DBZ world, like, if they were to make, like, defense and speed stats and things like that, if they were to cap you in a way where if you were the smallest Arcosian, the smallest Frieza race possible, you could get an insane amount of speed. For being an Arcosian and for being small, you can get an insane amount of speed put on your character, assuming that became a stat that you could add to and whatnot. But if your strength, or we'll use basic attacks, could only go to 75, we know from the DBZ world that Frieza can hit as hard as he damn well wants. Like, it doesn't matter how tall or short he is. You know what I mean? We've had small characters hit extremely hard, and we've had larger characters move extremely fast, and that's where it gets kind of iffy. But I do like the idea, for the sake of created character, that if you make the biggest possible Namekian, your speed can only be so high, but your health or defense stat, if that was implemented, could be off the charts. And then again, what he mentioned there when he talked about a hard lock would mean that if your character had 100 points, let's just say you were a tall Namekian, and then you had 100 points in basic attack because he was huge. If you put clothing on, if you put all your clothing on, like 5 points a pop, that gets him all the way up to 125 points in basic attack. If you put a Z-Soul on that was supposed to up your basic attack more, it wouldn't go any further. If the game capped you right at 125, so that way you couldn't 10-hit combo someone and kill them just because they didn't put 100 points in health or things like that. I think that's a good way to go about balancing the game. I think those are good ideas as a whole. But
either that or diminishing returns on things like clothing and Z-Souls, anything after your actual skill points.
Yeah, to explain diminishing returns, that just means that after you have 100 points in basic attack supers, you put a hat on that gives you 5 points in basic attacks. You would get 5 points, but then you put a shirt on that gives you 5 points. Since you already have the hat on, you're not going to get 5 points. You're going to get 4, 3, 2 points. And then you put pants on, then you're going to get 3, 2, 1 point, something like that. Just making it so that way you can't just stack in one stat and get completely huge in that. You actually have to spread your character around a bit. Now, there's 2 more things I want to talk about. First one, what do you guys think about adding defense or speed stats, and are there any other stats you think would make a whole lot of sense to be put in the next Xenoverse game?
Well, to actually talk about the whole defense and speed stat, there actually is the defense and speed stat in the game. They're in the game, but they're these unsaid, you can't measure these stats on a chart. You got to actually go into the game and look up certain things, and I believe there are some websites that actually discuss further into it. But a lot of people use the you'll be the first victim Z-Soul, which also starts you off with full key, but then it ups your defense. And I think defense itself, I need to know if I have 25 defense or if I have 50 defense. That's something that should be said, because when you don't have a visual on how to tell how these stats are, then there's no way of actually knowing how fast you are. There's no way of actually knowing how much damage you're mitigating off of defense. And as a result, certain characters can then achieve way high speed and defense due to, one, the lack of caps, and then due to them just stacking supposedly how much ever goes into it. Yeah, no one knows by how much is your defense raised when you put on certain things. No one knows by how much is your speed raised when you're a certain size and when you put on certain Z-Souls and things like that. No one knows if it's percentages or if it's an additive. These things all come into play because that's why you have certain characters who are able to stand in your face and descend, and you'll miss them because they're that much more faster than you are.
And you were talking about earlier, you were opting for locking characters, like locking all created characters or whatever, at 1, 2, 3 bars of health, whatever it may be, and then instead removing health as an option to level up and putting defense there? Is that what you were talking about earlier?
Yes. I like that idea way better. One, because now you don't have anybody who's worried about just completely, utterly getting blown up because they didn't invest in enough health, or you don't have somebody who's completely worried about getting blown up because their race says that their health is going to be low. And,
male
so on,
Saiyans.
so on and so forth. Male
Cough.
Female Saiyans ain't even that bad. Like, jeez.
What about you, Dr. Love? Anything on stats? Any other stat you would want to add? Maybe if they add Key Clash, like a Key Clash stat, anything like that. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think that a speed stat and a defense stat would be two that should really, really, really be there. I can't think of any other ones off the top of my head. I'm sure that I could if I were to think about it, but a defense one and a speed one could really, really help out because like what Virgo said, they are there, but they're not there as if to the point where you can distribute more points into them. But I do think that if they were to, that would be really, really, really better for Xenoverse 2 because there are some times when I've had characters where I would wish that they were a little faster, wish they had some more defense in some form instead of having to rely on some sort of, like Z-Soul or clothing to do it, where I could just put points into those stats. And if they put that into Xenoverse 2, then that'd be a huge step up, in my opinion, at least for that aspect, for which stats you can distribute points into. But I can't really think of any other ones off the top of my head, like I said earlier, but defense and speed are definitely two that I would love to see.
Maybe there were people thinking that, or people at Bandai Namco, whatever, that were thinking that since they had speed stat as something that, like the Arcosian race, the Frieza race revolved around, is that they got a speed boost, it might ruin it, but I think if they put a speed stat in, it would just, the Frieza race would naturally, I don't know, like maybe there's 0 in speed stat points, would already be like a 25 to every other race or something. There's ways they can have that in there and still balance it and make it work, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it plays out, but I would
Randomly, I just had a thought. You can, if you take and mind you, this is jumping way back, but if you take the Z-Soul, and have it with the stat boost, take the stats out of clothing, and boom, there's a lot of problem solved right there.
Yeah. And then the last thing I want to talk about today, it was kind of, I think we kind of helped clear it up here at the end, but the level 99 cap, and I think you guys actually have different opinions to me, and you were some of the few people who would disagree with me. I know Dr. Love at first, I'm pretty sure Virgo now. To me, along with the hit detection that was brought with DLC Pack 3, the level 99 cap did really just destroy online and custom characters for me because you can really just make these crazy strong builds and combined with the Z-Souls that Dr. Love would removed. And these things, it gets a little out of hand. And that's when I started doing, when DLC Pack 3 dropped, that's when I started trying to do original characters only, characters that are on the roster only, because that's what became fun to me, because created characters were so far out there. But what do you guys think about the level 99 cap? And do you think maybe adding defense would take the place of health, but do you think maybe adding an extra stat or two like speed would help with that? Make it so we can still be level 99 and it's not crazy strong because there's a whole other stat you got to dump points into.
Well, there's actually two sides of me on this. The first side says that it was actually pretty good because it helps out and strengthens the in-game or preset characters as well as the created characters, instead of just making created characters OP and then just leaving the in-game characters like whatever they were before. And since I use in-game characters way more than I do any created character, that was a really good aspect for me. But the other side says, people in comment sections were complaining because it wasn't level 99 before. Like when the game first came out and it was just capped at level 80, people were like, why don't you just increase it? This is too low. And then they increased it to level 85, and then they were like, why isn't it level 99? That would make way more sense. This is stupid. Then they did put it at level 99, and then people complained because it was level 99, but it was still understandable why they complained, because there was all that, hours and hours worth of grinding just to get there. That was really bad. And
for the sake of arguing for level 99, let's just ignore the garbage grind that you have to do. Virgo, what do you think about the whole stat caps and how they are now?
If you put a stat cap on level 99, then it's not that bad anymore. If I can't swing over 75 anyway, then it's not really that bad. So that is simply where I stand on that. There's really not much I can say about that. Like,
You think a stat cap pretty much fixes it?
I think a stat cap will immediately fix the whole level 99 issue.
My thing with the level 99 thing is it's not even that like everybody's OP. If everybody's OP, nobody is. That's a lot of people who argue for the level 99 mentality. But like if everybody's OP, nobody is because everybody's crazy strong. My thing is the fight style before 99 is if you wanted to be balanced, you actually had to take a hit to be balanced. You weren't going to be as good as everybody else to be a balanced character. If you wanted to be specialized in something, you could specialize in 2 things, typically only like 1.5 things if you wanted to have good health, which you did need in the Xenoverse. Pre-level 99 stat cap, you picked one stat, maybe another stat, or maybe another half stat to be decent in, and then one stat that was 100 in everything, and then you kind of like even some other stuff out, or you just put nothing in any of it. And then you had to specialize in that thing. If you were going to be balanced, you had significantly less points than everybody else in whatever they were maining, but you could kind of do it all, and you had like your wide array of movesets. But after the level 99 stat cap happened, I think even with a cap on how high your stats could actually get, there's not a whole lot of pick and shoot. You don't have to give up a lot to be great at all of it, and I think that's what bothers me the most, is that there's no more sacrifice for the gains you're getting. I think that's what bothered me about it. I think adding an extra stat or 2 and maybe balancing how they distribute their points could help, but I definitely like the way it was at 80 or 85 a lot better, me personally. But if that's it, you guys have any final thoughts? I think we're about ready to wrap this one up.
I think that I'm good.
Final thoughts would be give us some stat caps. Fix the whole clothing Z-Soul issue one way or another. And that's about it. That'll really help with a lot of the balancing. After that, it's just hit detection, also and hit detection.
All right. I think it's going to wrap it up for us here today. I want to thank both you gentlemen for joining me. Their links will be in the description down below if you want to check them out. But that's going to wrap it up for us here today. I want to thank you guys for coming out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm Thundershot here with Virgo and Dr. Love, and we are out. Peace, guys.
Peace out.
What's the matter? Is that